inviting me along, Corinna. I'm going to spend 10 minutes or so trying to convey what is quite a large and complex organisation in London, the Southbank Centre. We are on the south bank of the Thames. The London Eye sits on one part of our land, and to the right of us is the National Theatre. So if you know London, everything between the London Eye and the National Theatre is Southbank Centre. Royal Festival Hall is probably the most well-known building. Our very being came from the Festival of Britain, which was the post-war tonic to the nation. The whole community was struggling still from austerity, the impact of World War II on London and the bombings and so on. So the government decided that we needed to bring community together, to get people to work together and to celebrate the success and the good things in the UK. So the spirit of community sort of lies at the heart of the Southbank Centre from its very origins in 1951. And at the time, over half the population of the UK came to the Festival of Britain on the Southbank side. So our beginnings were very much in that sort of mould. So today, the Royal Festival Hall music venue is the largest of it's the only remaining building from that Festival of Britain. Queen Elizabeth Hall was built in '68, along with the Purcell Room, and you may know the Hayward Gallery as well, which is our visual art gallery. So about 10 years ago, the idea of taking art outside the building was not really featuring in the Southbank. This was the rather dreary front of the estate. The river's on the far side there. Who on earth puts a road between a river and the front of an art centre like that? Horrific. So pretty dull, pretty drab. The back of the building wasn't much better. Great big horrible concrete walkway, utopian failure. Not much going on. No animation, no life. The roof of the Queen Elizabeth Hall was clearly the architects thought that somebody would go and sit up there, but designed the most uncomfortable benches known to man. So nobody did. So roll on 10 years, and this philosophy and this spirit of bringing people to the site, and you get a much different picture. So this is your typical scene at the front of the river on the left-hand side here, us programming actively for the spaces, catering, retail. We've got 14 restaurants on the site now. We've got 3 shops. All of the income from that drives free art participation. We have big sing activities out on the front there, Bryn Tervel in the middle, controlling a mass choir. We have food markets at the back every weekend. We bring young, creative foods from around the world, young entrepreneurs starting up in the food business, and that's a real popular thing. That horrible concrete roof of the Queen Elizabeth Hall is now carpeted with grass and is tended by ex-prison offenders who tend to all the communal spaces around the Southbank Centre. And there's a bar up there, so have a bar, have people, have fun. Have money to support the arts. So the site's much more bustling, busy, winter, beautiful place to be. So a real transformation in terms of animating the site. And what we believe is that the arts we have a role to play in bringing people together to celebrate the power of imagination and creativity. And we really want everyone to play their part. It's a participative role we want for making culture for the many and not the few. So that's what we believe. And our values, 2 of the most important ones, are that we are culturally active. We really want to give people a voice themselves to challenge the world around them, to challenge the status quo and look at new ways of doing things. And this idea of being celebratory, the idea of shared congress, we really like this idea of congregation, of people coming together in this celebratory way. So our values do underpin this spirit of community and engagement. So story today is that 26 million people come to our site every year. We're the 4th most popular destination in the UK for entertainment and the arts. We present ourselves over 5,000 events a year, so my team are constantly frazzled and worn out, but they love it, so they tell me. Importantly, over 50% of what we do is free, and a lot of the commercial activity on the site goes to support that free programme. And that's an essential part of the mix of bringing communities together onto the site. The idea that you can bump into art on the site, whether it be through a Yerba orange bench that we've got on the site at the moment, or through a fountain, or through a beach. But a lot of what we do is free and participatory, and it's very important. But it's not just London. A lot of our work now is travelling across the UK, and these are just some of the towns and cities that we work with on a regular basis. So the strategy that underpins this transformation of activity and involvement and engagement is our festival strategy. And it's about engaging communities, developing global partnerships, and bringing people together to talk about issues and topics that are relevant to them. The kind of festivals that we present are things such as Africa Utopia, looking and celebrating art of the African subcontinent, Alchemy, bringing Indian and Pakistan and South Asian artists together, transcending political differences and allowing them to share a stage and a platform. Things like children's festivals, choral festivals, as you might imagine, but also more specialist one-off festivals. So Changing Mind looked at the issue of mental health, its impact on the arts and how the arts can play a part in raising awareness and providing therapy to those suffering with mental health issues. Changing Britain, how art and culture shaped the politics of Britain since the Second World War. Death, probably the most taboo subject there is. We celebrated it. We had rather famously an exhibition in the foyer of something like 100 coffins. So it was the place to come and cheer yourself up. But actually, a lot of people did find it very therapeutic, and it brought people into the building for the first time because of the theme and the subject matter. And at the moment, we've got a year-long festival called Belief and Beyond Belief. So there's a lot going on at the moment. Summer, winter, there's ongoing festivals across the site. So festivals, these are some images while I talk. So our festival strategy, we have think-ins where we involve the community and the target audience in helping us shape the content for each festival. And the festivals are made up of high-quality art and well-known artists, as you might see, often large-scale orchestral events for some festivals, talks, debates, literature. And the site is brought to life through a lot of activity. And as I say, sometimes it's more formal, but other times it involves children, young people. And Chineke, which is the first UK all-black orchestra, was formed as a direct result of one of our festivals on site. We involve the community in participation, children, of course. And we bring out the outside in. This is our street dance community who regularly perform outside. We provide space for them to rehearse inside. And yet we also go outside ourselves, and we use the open space for participation, quirky activity. Multiculturalism is the heart of a lot of what we do. We really want to diversify our audience, young people teaching the elders, community dance, participation, bringing the outside in again, paddling pool on the roof of the Hayward Gallery, that was a good one. A fountain, simple thing, Jeppe Heim's Disappearing Rooms fountain artwork. That drives hundreds and thousands of people each year to the site. So a simple thing like a fountain or a seagull, a bit more unusual. But a beach as well, great thing, just brings families, children together, and in doing that they're bumping into art on the site. World's first poetry takeaway. And we are the idea of feasting as well, feasting as a communal way of bringing people together at the back of the site. So that's all good. That's festivals on site at the Southbank Centre. That's blown the sort of walls away. But I want to briefly talk about Women of the World Festival, which some of you may have come across. This is our festival aimed at looking at the obstacles that prevent women and girls reaching their full potential because of gender inequality. And it's become a global world network of festivals now, which are really showing the full potential of how you can break the walls down and go beyond the barriers. So again, think-ins in every community that we work with. But at the moment, to date, these are the places we have presented festivals, the Women of the World Festival around the world, and it's growing annually. So some pictures coming up from some of the festivals we've been at. So Beijing was the most recent one, the first kind of such festival of its kind. Kathmandu, Karachi, think-ins with a local, very unusual local group of people. People involved at all levels of the community, understanding local issues for women and girls. Often these festivals around the world are the first time they've been allowed to come together, and there have been some difficulties. In Hargeisa, the WOW team was expelled from the country, and the festival organizer had to leave the country because of the festival. So some difficult political issues linked to this work. Jude Kelly in the middle is our artistic director. Let's whiz through these quickly. Apollo. Hopefully you get a flavour of what the WOW festivals. Some feedback from one of the festivals involving the discussions. Bradford in the UK, again, just an example of us going beyond London with this festival. This was the festival where the team had to leave the country. And I promise you, someone did turn up to this one. This really is without walls. So just a few final parting shots, some positives and some negatives, some issues to consider. So festivals really do encourage us to have diverse themes and issues which can engage non-traditional audiences. We really involve everyone in the planning of our festivals, community groups, think-ins, participants, and that really helps ownership in terms of delivery. Our festivals are characterised by very diverse audiences, high BAME attendance, and socio-economic breadth, which is good. The topicality of a lot of our festivals generates press and political interest, the mental health one in particular. We've got a lot of PR off the back of that one. And this festival model has become very portable. We're in a discussion with Canada at the moment. China are interested in working with us, and we've just done a huge project this year with the Nordic countries who funded us to develop festivals with their artists. And also there's commercial interest as well. The sort of mass participation of festivals does drive commercial income. So a few thoughts to consider. There is a danger of silo programming if you do too many festivals, and my concern always is what do we do next for the audience that comes for the first time because of a festival? So we're working very hard to think about long-term audience journey. So the retention issue around particularly themed festivals is quite important. There's a shift in the business and operational model. We don't think in terms of art forms anymore. We think in terms of festival themes and audience type. So that requires a different approach to the marketing team. And you have to get the balance right, so there is always art at the heart of everything. It can't just be all about talks and debates. The subject matter can be highly controversial sometimes, and we've had some case studies where the material has either triggered emotional responses in people or created emotional upset. And we now realise the duty of care we have as an organisation in dealing with some of these difficult topic matters, and it's important that we explore that. So finally, just rowing back to our mission and vision, I told you that we wanted to be a place where the world can meet and that we wanted to be for the many and not the few. So I hope this literally whistle-stop tour of what we do shows how we live and breathe those values and our beliefs. So that's all from me. Thank you.
Hi. Let's see. Hi, my name is Deborah. How's everyone doing? Good. Let's see where we are. So I am the CEO of Yerba Buena Center for the Arts. I'm really happy to be here. I'm here today along with Chris to talk about institutional change and the role of art centers in our communities. For those of you that were here on Wednesday, there may be just a tad repeat, but I definitely will try to be interesting or something. At YBCA, we have evolved our mission. We wanted to move it beyond a mission that is about presenting art, which we believe to be a very important thing that we do. It is what we do, but it is not why we exist. And so we wanted to activate our mission and think very boldly about what role does an art center play in the world? Why is the world different because we exist? And so our mission is about cultural shift. Our mission is to generate culture that moves people. We believe that culture precedes change. We think that, if you look at any of the lasting and great changes that have happened in the world, they're always preceded by a cultural shift, by a change in hearts and minds. So we generate culture that moves people. We wanted to think a lot about how we do that. And rather than define ourselves by the artistic disciplines that we work in, and we are multidisciplinary, we wanted to think about these platforms. Oops, design problems. Didn't look like that when I sent it off. That might actually be an issue throughout. Can I just say that now? Anyway, it's interesting, right? Keeps us on our toes. We wanted to think about the 5 kind of interlocking platforms. So thinking a lot about how to deal with siloed curatorial departments, how to think about public engagement programs, civic engagement programs, public programs, education programs, not as a series of things that truly are all adding up to just trying to get more people that we can click off and count as audience members, but to really think about what are the assets that we have as an art center in the heart of San Francisco, and how do we use those assets to truly shift the culture. Right? So we want to feed the creativity in our city. We want to fuel the public imagination, and we want to shift the culture. So just to repeat for those of you that have already heard, obviously art and following artists is the most important thing that we do. We really believe that art centers can help, at least in this country, if not beyond, move us from this polarized debate into true nuanced dialogue, gathering all kinds of different people around the questions that matter to them today. We believe in our role as a cultural incubator, and I'm going to talk about that in a little bit, but the idea that we can actually be a place that incubates the best ideas in the world, and they are not only art ideas, they can be ideas of all kinds. We embrace our convening power, this idea that a lot of our organizations serve as places for other convenings, for communicating the museum is a really good example, but what happens when we actually think about our role just to bring people together to further ideas and to really embrace the idea that we can bring people together across sector? And then finally, coalition, everything in partnership, radical cross-sector partnership. The more that we as art centers are part of the dialogue, a part of the solution, the more relevant that we are. So, our brand promise, a creative home for civic action. And I just want to pause here to say that our work, our brand platform, our market research, and our subsequent brand campaign, which we launched about March 2017, I want to say, was absolutely fundamental in terms of helping our organization internally understand all of the change work that we've been doing. So it not only crystallizes what we are, it also puts a stake in the ground internally and externally what we are not. So we are the Center for the Art of Doing Something About It, Center for the Art of Expressing Optimism Against Unfathomable Odds. We had these on billboards, we have them on buses, we have them on banners, street pole banners. We have them all over the city. And they're asking the public to think about what happens when an organization, an art center, thinks of itself as a civic asset and thinks of itself as a place to be provocative and to bring people together no matter who they are and no matter what role they think that art plays in their lives. So this is a repeat, but it bears repeating just to say that when we think about our framework and we try to move beyond just being the place that is about the presenting of art and the exhibitions and the presenting programs that we do, we want to think about the people, those amazing people who are truly driving the culture in this world. So bear repeating. Every year we come up with a list, the YBCA 100. This is the list of the 100 people who are most inspiring to us as an institution. It also bears noting that this exercise actually was born to be an internal exercise in acknowledgement of the idea that an art center is made up of extraordinary human beings, many of whom are artists themselves, many of whom are incredibly networked, and many of them whom are not often asked, what do you think? And we wanted to say, how do we democratize the curatorial process? Who do you think is awesome? Who do you think we should be working with? And so the first year we did this list, it was internal, and it was like a 6-hour retreat, and all the staff, everyone got to present who they thought were amazing people. And of course, no one's surprised, I was stunned. Like half the people I hadn't heard of, and they were awesome. The list was so awesome that we realized we had to go public with it, that it was even better than something internal, that it could be something really important externally as well. So the YBCA 100, we just had our summit. I'm going to show you a couple of the people that were on the list this year. But this is about the people that are shifting culture, bringing as many of them together as possible over the course of a day to talk about what are the questions that are driving your work, what matters to you, what should we as an art center be focusing on if we want to shift culture. And so we come out of the day with 3 questions. It's a lot of work. These were a couple of years ago. Can we design freedom? What does equity look like? Why citizenship? And then we do all kinds of things around those questions. So we commission around them. We do exhibitions, programs, residencies, community work, and then we also have a fellowship program. So at any one point in time, we'll have about 90 people, 30 around each question, working together over the course of a year. They're cross-sector, they're bringing very different perspectives to the table, and then we're looking for those great ideas that we want to incubate. Yeah? People like Boots Riley, right? Leader of the coup and someone who believes in the role of music to inspire movement. Brand new Congress, these are people that are really thinking about the future. Lil Buck, the White Helmets, the questions, these are a couple of the more recent questions: public imagination, freedom, citizenship, truth. Just 2 quick examples. Who designs the future of the city? Out Out of that question came the response, the Market Street Prototyping Festival. Who designs the future of the city? The people need to design the future of the city. So in a radical collaboration with the San Francisco Planning Department, we literally upended the way planning works. We did 2 festivals, 2 open calls, more than 300 ideas, 60 projects on the street, more than 1 million people. We changed legislation, and we're seeing prototyping festivals, average citizens, regular people putting ideas out on the street that will inform the future of the city. And then the last, what does equity look like? The last idea. So really in response to a couple of key facts. One, that we are, at least in this country, we are pumping billions of dollars of development investment out into the world, and we are not solving the wealth gap, right? It's only increasing. We also know that there are artists all over this country, all over the world, who are doing very important community development work, who are transforming lives one block, one neighborhood at a time. And we also know that until we evolve the way we think about our financial systems in the world, until we get to a place where it is not just money that matters, but assets of all kinds, cultural traditions, language skills, you name it, this stuff needs to be an important part of how we think about how we invest. So Culture Bank is a new project that will be creating integrated pools in order to invest that include monetary and non-monetary assets, and will be investing in artist entrepreneurs who are working in communities across this country. My video didn't work. Should we try it last? Do we have a minute for it? Thank you.
It takes a certain type to want to hang out at or work at an art center. To state the obvious, for some of us, life tips precariously on the edge of a vote or a familiar, unwelcome knock at the door. Some of us are skirting around frayed at our own edges. It's a bit of a crazy life, no? And for some of us, centering art makes the world make sense. At culture's edge, art is center. Among us is an urge to alter our collective axis. Among us, there is a passionate response to our country's broken moral compass. We work in the arts, but we don't live suspended in its frame. We regular-ass people raise our kids here. We struggle to pay rent here. We're either not watching football to kneel with Cap, or hella watching the Dubs because all the damn reasons to watch the Dubs. We work in IT and finance, curation and administration. We're youth fellows and board members. YBCA, we art center people. We are citizens united, stating the not so obvious. We start by asking not so obvious questions. Like, can you individually name 100 living people, organizations, or movements that are changing the world? Can you imagine hanging out at your job and asking of one another to make a list of fire starters? Can you imagine bringing like half of those fire starters to your job with your community? What intention would you claim? How would you harness the agency of inspiration? YBCA, a community in search of an edge. We use questions to help us get there. We name our beacons. We navigate the paths they light through inquiry. We bring them repeatedly back to our galleries and stages and meetings and screenings. We gather creative citizens to also respond to their prompts to collaborate across sector. We repeat the process, name the beacons, sow their questions into our complicated ground, harvest the inspiration, invite others in, repeat the process, normalize the naming of the people who inspire us, ritualize in the workplace a culture of the catalytic, center the arts, create a formula to repeat so as to break civic cycles. From the center, generate a culture pushing more closely to the edge of what's possible.
Thank you.